So Jeannie, can I invite you up now? You can remove your mask. I'm just going to lower this for you.
I think that's okay, thank you. Yeah, I think that's all right.
So I'll be asking the questions, but essentially Jeannie is going to be talking, unless I interrupt. Jeannie, can you begin by telling us how people become refugees?
Oh gosh, well that's a big question. I'll try and keep it quite short. About 1% of the world's population are now refugees. Most of them are not in Europe. Most of them are in neighbouring countries to the countries that they've had to leave. I think about 85%. The main reasons people become refugees are war. So a lot of you will, well, I'm sure you will all know about the Syrian war, for example. But then there's also persecution. So there may not be a war in a country, but a particular group of people may be persecuted. So for example, I was telling Anne about a family that we support that have come from Afghanistan, and they have 3 little children. They're all under 8. And they had to leave because the brother of the man in the family was killed by the Taliban, and the Taliban were threatening the children in particular. So they all left together and they came here on the back of the lorry, and they're now somewhere in Elmbridge. So, you know, every one of those families has their own story as to why they had to leave, but that's an example.
Thank you. I'm just going to add the plug for The Visitor.
Yes, there was another, there's a film. If you have a chance to look on our website, which is brilliantly up here, there's a film called The Visitor, and that's actually about one of the families that have been resettled locally through the resettlement scheme for vulnerable people from Syria, which some of you might remember. There was quite a lot of attention on it at the time it was launched. So another way people can get here is through the sort of government scheme. And if you have a look on our website, you'll hear a story about a family from, well, you can watch a story about a family from Syria who've come here that way. So,
Rafe, can you just put the second slide up? You'll see The Visitor is on the right. Yeah. Just click on it, and I guarantee you no dry eyes.
Yeah, it's about 20 minutes, so it's not too long. You don't have to kind of book the whole evening, but it's definitely worth watching. And yeah, it's a lovely film,
Jeannie, the microphone is picking you up so beautifully. You can actually step back a bit.
Okay, like this?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you. Okay. What then, Jeannie, inspired you to begin Elmbridge Can?
Gosh, well, I mean, it was a complete accident. I never meant to do it. I wanted to do something. I think, again, you know, a lot of you will remember there was a movement 5 years ago. There was a lot of people in different places were becoming involved in this. So I was part of that, and I connected with a group of people locally on social media, and it evolved out of that by accident. I think the reason that there are various reasons, I think, why this, you know, there are so many things that matter in the world, and I guess there are, you know, various reasons I've thought about as to why this one was the thing that I've spent my time on. But one of the reasons is I did history and politics at university, and that's given me a kind of overview of, as you were saying, Anne, you know, my place in the world, how fortunate I am, how fortunate I've always been. But then also, you know, I think it's an issue where there's a lot of misunderstanding sometimes, and I think because of those misunderstandings and because of some of that fear, it can be a particularly important one to be involved in, because it's helping people to understand, you know, why people come here, why people move, and help us all to understand each other. I think that's just so important. And then also, you know, the Bible stories about welcoming the stranger, about the Good Samaritan, and I think also about how Jesus, you know, was very often with people who at the time, you know, there were different groups of people, but they were the people who were marginalized, who were dispossessed, who were not, you know, in those positions of power and popularity. And I think that's kind of inspired what I'm doing as well. So a combination of reasons, but also, you know, circumstance, how things have evolved and happened. Yeah.
Take a breath.
Thank you.
So how is Elmbridge Can going? This wasn't one of our questions, but I'm halfway down the bullet points that we thought about talking about. So I've got down here that it was August 2017 the first family arrived.
We've got about 22 families that we support. We're a community group of volunteers, you know, and what I think of what I do, it's about kind of channeling the community's efforts and energy, and it's a coordination role, so it's not kind of me doing stuff, it's all of us doing stuff, and I try and kind of coordinate it. But we've got 22 families from different places, about 2/3 are from Syria, and then we've got a family from Afghanistan, we've got a family from Iran. But people need different levels of support. Some people are completely up and running, you know, we're in touch, we like to see each other. You know, when we're allowed to hold events, they might come to an event, you know, that's lovely, but kind of effectively they don't, you know, things may change, but they're pretty independent, they're doing well, they're helping other people. Other situations, other families can be quite sort of labour intensive in terms of the support that they need. And with the group of families that have come through the resettlement scheme, they have a support worker through Elmbridge Council as well. So we work very closely with her, and we're very fortunate. She's brilliant. So you know, so that's kind of how it's working, but on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. Is that?
Yeah. Yes. And
Okay?
I found it helpful when you explained to me about resettled and non-resettled.
Yeah. So the resettled families are the families that have come through the government scheme, and they're the people that we expect to come. So we try and identify houses. We don't use social housing because there's political reasons for that. There's a shortage of social housing.
What we're saying is social housing isn't used.
Social housing isn't used because of the shortage of social housing, and you know, it's too complicated. So what we try and do is identify private rentals that we can use to house families that are coming from the camps around the war zones. So that's one of the things that we try and do. It's probably one of our biggest challenges, to be honest, because there's a housing issue here. So we're always looking for affordable private rentals. The rent's guaranteed by the council, and that the tenants is supported, so it's not, you know, a risk in that sense for a land person, but it's still one of our biggest challenges to do. So that's that group of resettled families, and then other families, they like the family from Afghanistan, they tend to be, you know, we're not many people, like I said, come to the UK, and certainly not many people come to Elmbridge. You know, Elmbridge is not an easy place to get to, and it's not a typical place to get to. So the families who are housed here or who end up here, who haven't been resettled, it tends to be because they have some sort of connection in the area. So they might have a relation, for example, and that's kind of why they end up in this area. But they still need some support.
Okay. And asylum isn't a guaranteed option, is it? Either?
Asylum is not a guarantee. There are some asylum seekers in Elmbridge, not very many. Again, there's a lot more in Kingston, and it's getting harder. It is in the Refugee Convention. So there's 1951 Refugee Convention, which we've signed up to, the UK signed up to, and that says that we, under particular circumstances, people are entitled to refugee status. And it doesn't depend, you know, there's a lot of misunderstanding. It doesn't depend on how they get here. It doesn't depend on whether they've gone through another country first. That's something they're entitled to apply for in law. But it's very, very time consuming generally. And certainly they have to meet a particular criteria, you know, to be able to get a refugee status. It's not, you know, just that you turn up and you get it, and it's not easy.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeannie. When I watched The Visitor, towards the end, I don't remember his name, but Halil, he said, "I love this country because I feel human here." And I just thought, what a thing to be saying. And my mind goes to the G7 that's going on at the moment, and hopes and prayers that things will be made better for those in war-torn countries that need to get away. Last question then, Jeannie. I don't know if you can remember the answer you gave me before. How can we be praying for you and the people that you help?
I think one of the things that I said to you, Anne, was, and it's something that I think, you know, not everyone's got a house, but, you know, we can all talk to people, we can all raise awareness of what's needed. There's quite a few practical items on our website. People can, you know, either things people can do or things that we need. we're volunteer-led and run. We don't have offices, but we do need occasionally, money for various things. So, financial donations we always appreciate, of course. But I think that something that everybody can do and pray for and think about is, for us all to try and understand each other a bit more and to understand our place in the world and what we have and what we can do with it. And I think we can all pray for that. So, and thank you, Anne, for asking me, and thank you, everybody, for listening.
The church has made a £200 donation to Elmbridge Can as part of our giving. And because Jeannie does worship here occasionally, and Louisa is in Spectrum, but currently playing cricket.
Sorry.
Yeah, because it's summer and cricket happens. But I think I feel humbled to be in the same space as you.
No, not at all. I mean, I'm just ridiculously fortunate and privileged, and to be able to do something with it is wonderful. So thank you very much, Anne.
No, thank you, Jeannie. If you want to make a donation to Jeannie, not to me, actually, to Elmbridge Can, the website is Elmbridge Can. Very easy, and it's an easy process to go through. I think that sums it up. So thank you so much, Jeannie, for coming.
Thank you.
Did you bring any little cards with you?
I didn't, because we're sort of getting some new ones reprinted.
Okay.
So, but just the website. I've got business cards if people want to be reminded of the website. But
yeah, take a business card.
Yeah,
yes.
I've got business cards if people want, but it's Elmbridge Can is the.
Yeah. Thank you. God bless you, Jeannie. Thank you.